Hey, welcome back. Second Star right here, talking some Raid Shadow Legends, and it is my favorite time of year. It's Halloween, my absolute favorite holiday. I love being scared. I love horror movies. I love candy corn, I guess. But I guess Plarium might like it a bit too because they have blessed us with 4 new champions. Harvest Jack we've already seen. Check out my video on it and other people's videos from the community and how much fun he's going to be and what a cool design that guy is. But there was some issues here with Skinwalkers not having very many champions, right? So of the additional 3 champions we got today, one of them is a Skinwalker. So now instead of having 19 champions, they're up to 20, and the one they added is a legendary, and he's pretty sweet. Here we have Brakus the Shifter. Werewolf, the glowing smoky purple eyes and claws, they're just set to rend, right? Okay, so cool design. Let's check out his kit. It's interesting. Attacks one enemy, heals this champion by 50% of the damage inflicted, which can get up to 20, 25, 30, 35% damage. So he can potentially, if you book him, heal 35% of the damage he inflicts on his A1. His A2, Full Moon Rampage, attacks one enemy 6 times and heals the champion by 25% of the damage inflicted. Heals this champion by 50% of the damage inflicted instead if the target is under a fear or a true fear debuff. And we've seen a lot of champions coming out lately, more champions coming out lately with those debuffs. So the potential for synergy in there is pretty great. After the first hit, has a 75% chance of placing a 25% weaken debuff for 3 turns. So a 6-hit A2, which I can't think of another champion that does that off the top of my head. That's pretty awesome. It's got a heal on it. Also does a weaken on a 5-turn cooldown that you can get down to 3 turns. Now, it's not easy, of course, to book a legendary, but having that on a 3-turn cooldown would be awesome. Let's move on to his A3. Hunter's Howl places a 50% increased attack buff on all allies for 3 turns, and then attacks an enemy 3 times. Each hit has a 50% chance of placing a true fear, so now it works in with A2. Debuff for 1 turn has a 50% chance of placing a fear debuff on 2 random enemies for 1 turn if the true fear debuff is placed. So if you hit one, if you hit your first one, then you hit another 2. That's pretty awesome. 5-turn cooldown that you can get down to 4 turns, but that's a pretty good A3 as well. And he also has a passive. In his passive, Beast Mode, gotta appreciate the Marshawn Lynch reference there. Passive on a 7-turn cooldown that you can get down to 5. Damage increases by 40% when this champion's hit point drops below 40%. Yeah, so you can see your 40% damage increase is pretty sweet. And then its active effect also is revives the champion with 20% hit points when killed and immediately grants an extra turn. So he can get right back up and attack. Or, immediately you can see the synergies with Masteries. Grim Resolve, where he does more damage when his hit points are below a certain amount. Life Drinker, you can work that into, but I don't see where you'd need any more life on this guy. And having these awesome healing abilities on his A2 and his A1, you probably won't need to gear him in lifesteal. So you can put on another set of gear on this guy, something that you might not ordinarily consider. It really, his super healing abilities, apt for a werewolf. Worked really well. It's cool. It opens up so much more opportunities to gear him differently than you might gear your typical heroes. So again, really cool design that opens up a lot of versatility in team composition. So I hope that one day I get this guy because I can see a lot of use in a lot of ways, different ways to use him. I'm excited. That's a really good character design. Alright, Knights Revenant. And here we go. We have the Miscreated Monster, a Frankenstein's monster looking guy. The lightning's pretty sweet. So he's really cool looking. A little bit of Iron Man in him in the center of his chest there. Now, this guy I like and I don't like. And let's go over his kit, and we'll see a little bit what I'm talking about. Okay, so his A1, Meaty Fists, attacks one enemy 2 times. Each hit has a 15% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. And then he has a 50% chance of placing a 60% decreased defense debuff for 1 turn if the stun is placed. And this is based on hit points. Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. The good, based on hit points. This is another hit points based champion that we've gotten in this release, this rotation. So that's good. 23,000 hit points. So there's potential for some really heavy hitting damage there. A stun on an A1 is great. On a 2-hitter, which is really cool, but there's only 50% chance. That can be booked up to 25% chance. Now, the good and bad in that is that he has the big decreased defense, but he only has a 50% chance, and that's only if you land a stun. So, slot machine mechanic there, where a good thing will happen if a good thing happens first. We've been seeing that a lot lately, and I like it, but if you wanted to have more certainty on your A1 for decreased defense, if that's what you're looking for, then maybe you'd want a rear guard sergeant or something similar, just for a bit more surety that you're going to land your debuff, or at least a better chance. Moving on to is A2. This is a pretty good one. Lightning Storm. It's an AoE that has a 50% chance of placing a stun for 1 turn. So it's a stun AoE, which is really cool. And it's on a 4-turn cooldown that you can get down to 3 turns. That's pretty awesome. And then on top of that, a shield buff is placed on all allies for 3 turns, equal to 25% of the damage inflicted. And again, damage based on hit points, it's going to be pretty big. That's not a bad A2 at all. And then the A3 is a 50% ally protection buff on all allies, except this champion, of course, for 3 turns. And then it heals the champion by 50% of their max hit points, and places a 15% continuous heal for 3 turns. So again, that's a pretty powerful A3. Granted, on a 6-turn cooldown that you can get down to 4 turns. But so it's one turn short of the 3-turn defensive cooldown, magic threshold for being overpowered. So he's still within the realm of non-lunacy. But again, that's a good one. But you could use a Jarrig, and maybe that might be a better choice for you. But more Jarrig's on an A2. You can get down to 4-turn cooldown with only 1 book as opposed to 2. So there's some things. This guy is kind of a combination rear guard sergeant and Jarrig, but he does some other cool things too. So he has some additional utility on top of that, but kind of on a slot machine mechanic. So you kind of see how they're trying to balance all these things out. So I do think that this guy's a lot of fun, and we haven't even gotten to his passive yet. And his passive is pretty powerful. His Spooky Groan passive places a fear on an attacker for 1 turn whenever an ally is attacked while under an ally protection buff. So that's pretty huge. Fear is a pretty powerful debuff, and to have that on a passive whenever you get attacked, and whenever any ally gets attacked, that's saying a lot. So again, this is a good champion. I don't know if I like him as much as the other 2, but the more I talk about him to myself, the more he's growing on me. So again, right now I'm just gonna consider him a very solid addition to the champion pool, and then we will move on. Alright, and lastly, we have over in Dark Elves, I said Dark Elves, we have this really amazingly designed champion, Madame Serris. Oh, she's so cool looking. I love the oversized hat in the awesome, the Sithalius reskin looks really, really good. I love the intricate design with the corset in the back and the split cloak, and it's just so cool. The boots, really, really, really looking good. Such a cool design. I'm really impressed. He's got little vials there. Should probably turn you into a llama. Please, someone get that Emperor's New Groove reference. Okay, let's go over her skills. A1, panic spread. It seems like, linguistically speaking, it should be spread panic, but I guess panic spread works okay. Although spread panic sounds like you're actually spreading panic. Panic spread kind of sounds like your hollandaise has gone bad, and you're worried about food poisoning. Anyway, it attacks one enemy, has a 20% chance of placing a fear debuff for 1 turn. and the chance increases to 30% if the target's under 1 debuff, and the chance increases to 45% the target's under 2 or more debuffs. So that's kind of cool that it does has a higher chance of doing things the more an enemy is debuffed, and I'm a big fan of debuffs. So that's kind of cool. Tricks and Treats, her A2. It's an AoE, attacks all enemies, has a 40% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each target. I love buff removal. Places a block debuffs buff on all allies for 2 turns if any buff is stolen. That's awesome. Places a true fear debuff for 1 turn on enemies who have buffs stolen. That is a really, really, really strong A2. It does so many things. That is, that's pretty sweet. 4 turn cooldown that you can get down to 3. Man, that's pretty intense. That's an insane A2. I really dig it. Moving on to A3, Midnight Ritual, which I think would have been cool if it was Midnight Mass. I don't know. But it's still fine. Midnight Ritual. Removes all buffs from enemies. That's pretty good too. Places a 50% decrease attack debuff and a 60% decrease defense debuff on all enemies for 3 turns. It does everything that you want on her A3. Granted, it's a 6-turn cooldown, but you can get that down to 4 turns. Again, man, between her A2 and her A3, that's really strong. And we haven't even gotten to her passive yet. Her passive is Witch's Grace. Places a shield buff on this champion equal to 10% of their max hit points at the start of each turn. Okay? When attacked while under a shield buff, has a 35% chance of placing a fear debuff on the attacker for 1 turn. Man, that is really impressive. That's really impressive. She's support. She has good stats, decent defense, decent hit points. This is really, really strong. Another really strong champion on the part of Plarium. They're just killing it lately. This rotation, these Halloween heroes, are just really something to behold. And I guess it just kind of makes me wonder, like how did the design process went in to these champions versus, say, again, I'm going to rank on the barbarians again, because the barbarians are so boring. Maeve and Suari Firstborn, they are so boring. I mean, comparatively, right? If you compare their kits, it's like, who's designing them? Is the barbarian guy this like crotchety old grandpa who like lived through the Great Depression or something and doesn't want anyone to have nice things and like has like a china cabinet that's locked and no one can touch? I don't know. And then compared to these guys where the devs said, hey, here's this, bowl of candy, don't design the champions until it's all gone and you're all on a sugar high. Because, man, I'm impressed and I'm pleased. And with all the talk of all these new champions are diluting the pool, I don't think so. These guys are really strengthening the pool as far as I'm concerned. They are nailing it. They nailed it. This rotation, they nailed it. Last time, they had a lot of good and some bad. The dwarves, some good, some bad. These 4 Halloween champions, I think, are really good. The Frankenstein one being maybe the least, but even the least good champion in this release is better than some of the ones that came out last time. So overall, I'm pleased, and I hope that I'm able to draw some of these at some point, because I would really, really like to work them into a team and see what they can do. All right. If you have any questions, any comments, head down to the comments and leave me a note, see what's going on, and I will talk to you guys next time.